You are speaking. If you can turn on the mic when you do speak, it just helps us be able to hear and for the public to be able to hear us. And if you're here as a member of the public, if you don't mind just turning your cell phones on silent, we would appreciate that. We'll get started with the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe Commissioner Wright's going to lead us in the prayer today.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace. We thank you for this community, dear God, just how you protected it over the years, dear God. We thank you for the leadership in this community. Pray that today you give us divine wisdom that comes from you. Help us to understand what's best for all citizens of this community. Go forward and ask that you continue to put a hedge of protection around this community and every aspect of it, and we carefully give you the praise, honor, and glory from it. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we do.
Is it streaming?
Oh, we're streaming.
That's good.
As far as I know. Mr. Hamilton, are we streaming?
We are.
Okay. It's just we didn't have that bright glare in our eyes, so. Okay. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. All right, we'll open up our discussion of the interjurisdictional discussion on SPLOST 8 projects and expenditures with local municipalities. I think the easiest way to go about this is to discuss Martin and Avalon first because it's a little bit more direct than, I know we're going to have further discussion with the city of Toccoa, so more in-depth discussion. Well, so I think typically what I've seen in the past is we do just an amount off the top. So you both certainly would know more than I do about that because you've been around a little bit longer than me. So
yeah, we've gotten it for a couple of times now. I'm speaking for Avalon. We are accomplishing our goals slowly but surely, and we have a lot ahead of us. We would like to expand our parking, remodel our building, do some aesthetics for the grounds there, maybe possibly buy some more land and do some more projects there in the community that would serve us and the county. You know, we are the first municipality people see when they come through the south corridor, the Currahee corridor. So we need to look good for them. We met with the county administrator, the lawyer, and I did a few weeks ago. And according to what our portion would be through that discussion, that would be great for us.
okay.
Got any questions on what we're doing and how we're going about it, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Roger.
I think I have any questions.
Any infrastructure that you all would consider using this money for?
Well, Martin does the water, so we support them and the fire department. So we are supportive of that. We do provide amenities for the constituents like garbage pickup, street lights, that kind of thing. As far as the infrastructure we have is just pretty much what we're doing ourselves for the community there. We're just a small area, so we don't have people on staff yet. The activities building we're talking about would be a county-wide thing once we get it completed, operated through the city. So that's kind of where we're headed with this.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor Alexander, do you have anything to add?
Yes, we appreciate what you're going to divide with us. We're going to do for the government facilities. improving building the things, roads and streets, which is always needs of repair. And we expand the water system for the new houses that are being built all over around, and hunting the well again. And then for the public safety with the fire and helping them.
Of course. Okay. And are you agreeable to the numbers you discussed with Christian?
We are agreeable with that, yes.
Okay. Well, the easy part. Christian, am I missing anything?
No, I think we were looking at potentially 200 for Avalon and 300 for Martin.
Yes. And that's agreeable to y'all? Okay.
And that's a 6-year IGA.
Yeah, right, that's what we talked about initially. I didn't know where we stood with that, so.
That's our intention.
How it would move if we can get everybody on board.
Correct.
So, well, thank y'all for being here. All right, we'll move on to City of Decoa, and y'all will kind of have to help me here. It's my first time around with this, so. Where do you suggest we start, Mr. Hamilton? What do you think would be the easiest?
We could probably start with a discussion of the projects that we're looking for.
Okay.
And then from there go into how to fund those, would be my
Okay.
guess.
And we don't have a proposed list of projects, correct?
Not in front of us, but we can give a rough understanding of what we're looking at.
Okay.
Can you go through those, Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, sir.
You mind, Tara?
No, not at all.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay, so in Stevens County right now, we are looking at potential funding for pad-ready sites for the Economic Development Authority, a new radio system for E911 emergency communications, funding for additional ambulances for Stevens County Emergency Medical Services, funding for county fire for departmental needs. We'll get into an exact discussion of what that is, but potentially vehicles, maybe some upgrades to our facilities out there. Debt servicing, potentially for a new government building. Obviously, road work. That would be county road work on an annual basis in addition to heavy equipment and the equipment needed to pave our roads in-house. And then additionally, some funding for the sheriff's office, including vehicles, as well as potential upgrades at the Stevens County Jail.
Thank you.
City's proposed list, do y'all have a similar list of what
We do.
y'all want to provide that now? Or?
Sure. Yeah. Madam Chair, first, thank you for the opportunity for coming
Absolutely.
today. We appreciate you inviting the city. We've always worked extremely well together, and we appreciate that. So the projects that we talked about that we would like to use SPLOST 8 for is water upgrades to our plant. As the mayor with Martin had mentioned, we actually supply the water to Martin. So water is crucial to Toccoa, obviously. Just recently, last year, we invested close to $50 million just in the sewer infrastructure for our wastewater treatment plants. And the water plant needs immediate upgrades and servicing. But we have learned that in order to continue to be a regional water supplier, we're going to have to rebuild a water plant. So what we'd like to do this year is to work with our engineers to come up with that plan, to see what that number is going to be. We do know that it's a big number, more than what we could ever do through a SPLOST or to revenues from public. So it's going to take federal and state dollars to make that happen. But we do want to start the process of studying to see what that So in this upcoming SPLOST, we've allocated $5 million toward the water utilities, whether that's at the plant or just general upgrades. One way that we've been able to keep our millage rate low as possible, and also our utility rates, is we depend on this SPLOST funding to be able to do the improvements we need. So water plant upgrades, $5 million, sewer, $3 million, city vehicles, $1 million, city building upgrades, $1 million, road bridges and culverts, $1 million, and city park upgrades, $365,761. What we did to come up with that amount is we just used historic numbers to come up with a number that we would begin to work from. So that's how we came up with those projects and the dollar amounts with it.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, so the upgrades to the water plant, is there a plan in place for an upgrade in between building a new facility?
I think our primary goal is to keep what we have running and functioning well. So we'll continue to do repairs as needed, and what minor improvements that we need to do that would justify knowing that we would one day have a new plant. Feel free to jump in. I think that's where we're at, is maintain what we have to make sure it will function and provide what we need. Hold off until the new plant is built on anything we possibly can.
Is there a forecasted timeline for new plant versus repairs? Like, I guess I'm just curious for ballpark, is this a 5, 10, 20 year, like where you're thinking?
I think we'll know more once we have a study back to what it's going to take to build it, the exact location that it's going to be and those kind of things. But it's at least going to be a 5 to 10 year project.
That's an enterprise fund though, correct?
Yes.
I guess I have some concerns with the majority of the SPLOST going to an enterprise fund.
Last year, in June, our water operating funds revenue was 8.4. $7.8. So it takes, that's just to keep it operating.
Right.
Tell us, water plant, the way it is now, so many upgrades. Spending, turn around, had to meet with Banks County last week, who we've got to have another pump. All these upgrades that we do are just to keep the water flowing to the bed. And every time we turn around, it's another $100,000.
The curiosity question, the contract shall have with the other counties or cities to supply water, does it include them providing some funding for maintenance on the system at all, or do you just recover?
It's a flat fee per
Okay.
100,000 or whatever, or per thousand. It's a
Okay.
flat fee.
But is that something we could potentially look at in the future, is trying to get them to come in on some of the maintenance costs if their volumes continue to go up?
We're looking at that, but what we have to realize is a lot of these contracts.
I'm
were
asking out of
written-
curiosity.
These contracts were written many years ago. Part of this contract.
Sure. So during the next
We're tied
negotiation
into
cycle.
them. We're tied into them for several more years. Certain amount.
No, that makes sense.
But we do have some that we've been in conversation with that they realize we're a water supply. Some, but they've given us a quote that the water plant could be as much.
It makes sense, it would be.
And two, just for simplicity to operate it, the maintenance costs that you're referring to, it's easier if it's just calculated as a
Sure,
fee.
bill it in, yeah, and
Exactly.
overhead, I get
Rather
that. Yeah, I just didn't know if it was,
reimburse or that
needed
kind
to
of
be a higher amount to recoup the amount of maintenance that y'all are having to do.
We will certainly do that. Another 20-year contract.
Sure.
That we
Much
would
shorter.
never, ever, but we weren't part of that, and years ago when that was done, we had lots of water. Everybody had water, but now it's a different situation.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
even though that those contracts are long-term, they did have an escalation part
Sure.
clause in there, but it's just not enough to keep up with the current inflation.
And the aging of the
that we're
system,
seeing.
yeah.
We weren't expecting that kind of rate of
So
inflation.
you mentioned 3 million, I think, for sewer in
Yes.
your project. So
Yes, sir.
is that just purely maintenance, or is that expansion of the system down the corridor, Big A corridor, or what's in that
Well,
3 million?
it's my understanding that it's difficult to do. I just want to point out and just remind us that it's all about water.
Absolutely.
And the more that we can do to the county.
Has there been any exploration of state or federal funding for something that large? Because if we're talking about $100 million, I mean, obviously, that's going to be outside the purview of county funding.
Exactly.
And so, I'm just curious, like, I guess I'm just trying to understand holistically, because I feel like SPLOST is one piece of a much larger plan that has to, we've got to be looking 20, 50 years, and how one SPLOST, while it may only be for 6 years, how are we, just so that I understand what all the needs are.
I don't want you to at all get the impression that
Right.
that it can help us do the study. That's going to help us be able to obtain those funds.
$11,365.
Yes, sir.
Previously negotiated rate?
Yes, sir.
5 million will just, I'm gonna help build a new plant, but it may.
So SPLOST 1 and 2,
Like the dredging.
that was when the county owned the water system, right, back in the, y'all didn't own the water until what, 2001, 2002? The county sold, the county commissioner sold the water to the city around 2002 for,
I
It
think
wasn't nearly the extent of the water was nothing like.
it was countywide water.
Right.
Yeah, it wa-
Not to the.
And of course, just for the community to know, and we're still at the table, we're here now, but the counties, and even in this group of commissioners, just in the last several years, we helped with the sewer expansion on the bypass and lift station at Haystone Brady, which is bringing in industry. So I just want the community to be aware, we're already at the table, knowing that the water is beneficial to the outermost, the southern part of the county, northern part of the county, everywhere. But, and I think that's going to be a win for our relationship that we built with you guys a couple of years ago to get the sewer expansion. We're already seeing the apartments being built on the bypass and, in that PUD community out there. So we're seeing groundbreaking out there. One of our challenges in this group right now is we have several Tier 1 projects, one being the jail infrastructure and the sheriff's office is one of the Tier 1 projects that Christian, I guess y'all heard him mention, nothing's fun in this SPLOST list. Like, You know, like, I asked Chris the other day, I said, what would be fun in SPLOST dollars? I said, just the rec department, right? I mean, that's the only fun place you could spend sales tax dollars. Everything else, it seems like, is all for infrastructure to maintain this wonderful community in the city, in all three cities and the county. But with those Tier 1 projects, I don't know how we can get to the number that you all are proposing today with all the projects that Christian mentioned earlier. And those studies are expensive, to your point, because the study that we are conducting right now in regards to the annex and potential building being built there and remodeling of this building down here, if that's even possible, those studies are expensive. So I do feel like we do need to have some help in that discussion for you all to be able to pay for those studies for the sewer expansion and sewer infrastructure upgrades. So I'm completely aligned with that. On the sewer expansion, I know a few of us have had some sidebar conversations about would we expand sewer from Ebenezer Church to Walmart. So in these SPLOST dollars here, is that something that you all have talked about in your work sessions at all? I know that I've been told that you all are doing a gas line restructure down through there, repair. And so it would kind of make sense that if you've got that hole opened up in the road that you're that you're adding sewer in that area, but I'm not the infrastructure guy, so.
Our engineers haven't given us that. As we all know,
So with Tier 1 projects on the list, we looked at population distribution, and that would definitely not be fair to any of the three municipalities. Christian can touch more on that because I don't want to repeat wrong numbers, but we looked at population distribution without Tier 1 projects on the list. It would be a benefit to all three of the cities, but it would only be around $4 million for the city of Toccoa with Tier 1 projects. So we didn't think that that was a fair way to look at this. So we took population distribution with Tier 1 projects off the list. Christian, do you want to touch on that at all?
Just explain the process for how that works?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Or the numbers, I think more or less also projected numbers.
Yeah, sure. So we're looking at an IGA, and an IGA is a 6-year IGA. If we can all come to an agreement, we'll start that at a basic split, whatever's agreed upon, and then anything beyond that, that estimate that comes in is icing on the cake. It's additional funds that you're able to fund based on that distribution beyond that. If an IGA is not reached by the municipalities, then the county can go forward with the second method, which is population distribution. And what that would do is the county would fund Tier 1 projects first, and then the remainder of those funds available would be split between the county and these cities based on population distribution. Depending on the way that works, ma'am?
What's your percentage for county, city population?
So that's for discussion by the folks here today, but based on,
Are you talking about what would be the breakdown if it were to go by population? That's what you're asking?
I can tell you that.
Numbers put to that.
Apologies, I'm getting there. So what would happen is the county would fund those Tier 1 projects first, and then the municipalities would garner their funding after the Tier 1 projects were funded, which we're estimating would be about year 4 of the 5-year SPLOST. So we'd be looking at, if that's the case, based on a 5-year population distribution, based on funding those Tier 1 projects first, the county receiving, and obviously this wouldn't be $36 million, this would be 5 years, so we'd be looking at about $30 million. But the county would receive about $25 million, City of Toccoa would receive about $5 million, and Martin and Avalon would receive about $143,000 each. That's if
population distribution.
It's 64 for the county, 34 for the city of Toccoa, and 1% each for Martin and Avalon. And that's based on 2020 census figures.
What is the amount you're using?
We're assuming $16 million for level one projects. We're assuming $16 million for level one projects.
Tier one, level one.
Yes, tier one, excuse
A
me.
little bit over
Apologies.
16 million.
Is that the debt service, or is that the cost?
That's the debt servicing, and that also includes the government building upgrades as well as jail upgrades.
And the improvements?
And the jail, yes, sir.
What's the total estimate that you have?
The estimate for the debt servicing or the estimate for the building?
Debt service.
The estimated.
We'd be looking at about $12 million for debt servicing.
But the building's about $22 million on the first class 5 estimate, no details, just high level. And then you had the parking deck was on there,
Building itself is 22 million.
around 22 million, but
8
that's not a
million.
vetted number. That's a rough class 5 estimate.
I'm
Roughly.
just trying to get the construction costs that you're using for the debt service.
About
So-
30 million.
So the building is 22 million. Parking deck is 8 million.
About $7 million. Where does it go?
What are you doing with the 7 million?
It's up to the board to determine if they wanted to fund that parking deck.
But we're talking, Pat, you're talking about the difference between 36 million and $30 million.
Yes.
That's based on a 6-year IGA versus a 5-year population distribution.
How will you fund the,
Yes, sir.
Can't afford under one spot.
that would be in the future splosh?
Correct statement.
And we still don't have, for the potential new government building is only one of the level one projects, obviously. But I guess a good analogy, if Chris and I were talking with someone the other day about this building, and we want to make it clear to the public. If you pull up on Mike Jones Ford, he's got the King Ranch model all the way down to the XLT. And we're not trying to build the King Ranch of buildings we're not trying to build the Taj Mahal of buildings. We're trying to potentially do a government building that services the citizens of this community, the entire community, but make sure that the inside of this building is not, our community can't afford high-end fixtures and all that stuff, and that's not the purpose of that building, is to help consolidate the governments. And the biggest push behind this is the court system for 12 years, 14 years, and talking to the previous administration, has said that they're out of room. And regardless if we put a courthouse there or a government building there or make that all one courthouse or put that all administrative offices and put a courthouse there, the court system is, they're out of room. And they need 2 more courtrooms. They need I won't spend a lot of time here, but they need a lot more room than what they have right now. And that's the big driver behind what we're trying to accomplish in one of these tier 1 projects or level 1 projects that's on the list. So we're being pushed from the court system to give them the space that they need to be able to conduct business.
We have not looked at that as an option to build a building of that size. Property over here and down the hill. Got to get more information on what's possible. Had discussion about if this building didn't come to fruition, there's other upgrades in the county. If that building didn't come to fruition. We're not going to commit to a building until we're 100% sure that it's going to meet all the other functions of the county. And we can go look at that property if you think that's reasonable. Being over there, I don't think it's possible to expand that large, but maybe. square footage wise? Have a lot of parking over there. I mean, you're defeating the purpose though, because we were trying to centralize everything downtown, right? Because a lot of the feedback that we've gotten is that you got to go to and fro all over the county to fill out different permits, do different things. And if you leave it over there, you're defeating the whole purpose of what we were trying to do.
Walkable.
Yeah, so that you could meet any service you needed for the county or the city right here. That was the original driver for the discussion. Consolidation.
Still spending the money.
There'd still be
But I
an
don't think
expense
we
for
would-
construction, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we would support, that defeat the whole mission of what we're trying to do down here to go and build a new building over there.
Well, I understand a lot of it, when you
Clear, we do not want to enter into this discussion about population distribution. That's not at all what we want to do. Because let's just say, for example, if we went at an 80-20 split to a 6-year IGA, the city would get about $7.3 million. Where if you went population distribution, you wouldn't get but 4.8. So we don't want to be there. We want to figure out somewhere in this 6-year IGA, percentage-wise, that we're both satisfied with. We don't want to go to population distribution. That is not our goal of the discussion, or not mine anyway.
I just think the challenge is, we have so many of these tier one projects that it's difficult to go back to those historical numbers. And I think that we do want to, maintain good relationship and stay in this 6-year IGA. The challenge is, we have a lot of things that are all tier one, and they affect the county and the city. They are countywide, that affect all the citizens. And even things like the radio system that's upgrading for dispatch and for fire and law enforcement, that affects everything. And even the jail, all of these buildings would still be serving the city's citizens as well. It's not exclusive that we're just trying to isolate things over for us. And I understand the need for the water upgrades. That's obviously clean drinking water is important for everybody. I just don't know if this, my personal thought is this the right avenue to address those needs? Is that going to be at that level? So that's my concern.
The grant writing in the past has been really effective in a lot of your all's projects. Have y'all looked at having anyone do any type of grant writing for sewer infrastructure?
as we stated. That's another thing we have to take. Must be done. That's taken away from them. Possibly.
Are y'all under similar contracts on the gas as water as far as you're sending?
Christian, calculating these numbers, are you able to use debt service? Project total amount. I know that part of the law is when you have under negotiations, if you have a project, so can you use debt service number or cost of the project itself?
You can use the debt service number. We discussed this with the county attorney. That's how we'd be budgeting it.
So how long is that debt service for?
We haven't, well, it wouldn't be the full thing, would be the 16 million. That 16 million includes multiple projects. We'd probably only be doing debt servicing for the new building down here. We haven't fully determined what that would look like, but it could be between 12 to 18 years.
So how long, the 16 million,
Yes.
What will that pay? Project, or how are you splitting?
That would be done by project. So we discussed about that $12 million, that would be funded through the debt servicing. The other portion of that would just be government facility upgrades.
What other level 1 projects do you have other than
It's not 16 million in debt servicing,
In total
14
for the
million?
annex.
12 to 14 approximately. Yeah, what we'd be looking at for the total government level 1 projects would be the government building upgrades down here beside City Hall. We'd be looking at jail upgrades, and we would be looking at a potential new county annex.
I don't know where I got 16.
That's the total for the level.
So are you still expecting SPLOST 8 to be
Yes, on a 6-year IGA.
like 20 million left over? By population in the city, 5 million.
So when you have to go by population distribution, it's a 5-year agreement, not a 6-year.
30 million total. We'd pay for the level 1 first, we'd spend the 16 million. Population distribution, and population distribution, you wouldn't. That's why we have no desire to go there at all. We negotiate in the 6-year IGA and find a percentage that we're both satisfied. We don't want to do population distribution. It's not
Any of
beneficial
our
to you or us.
municipalities.
Negotiate right now?
No,
80,
what do you want?
80,
What do you
20, 80,
want?
20.
And that will never go.
Well, it gives the city
Gotta start
more
somewhere.
than, it gives the city more than they got last time.
Best guess. Your best guess that you're going to 36.
So
No,
these numbers are super
very
conservative. You
conservative,
collected more in
1%
SPLOST
CPI.
7 than what you projected, right? We all collected more in SPLOST 7 than what we projected. So these numbers are super conservative, so I would expect both of us would collect more than what's on that chart that we shared. But that's not a guarantee to your point, Michelle. I mean, it's, yeah. So, I mean, we're here to negotiate. That's what we have to do. We got to start somewhere. I mean, I could have started at 95.10, 95.5, you know? I mean, exactly, so I just want to start somewhere.
The previous SPLOST, Christian, if I'm correct, the city received 7.3 million.
That, we estimated 7.3 initially. They're, right now, James, where are they at right now, roughly?
We estimated conservatively, the previous administration did. They did the same thing that we're trying to accomplish, which is be conservative, so that we're not wrong, hopefully.
City's already at 7.7 right now, and there's 16 more payments left to receive.
And so they're ahead of the game just from the previous SPLOST.
Well, so are you.
Correct.
Agree. Agree, but.
Makes it sound like you're good.
No. So at an 80-20, it starts off at 7.5 million, which is more than what the previous negotiation
What
was.
was the percentage before?
68.25 and 31.75 is current SPLOST 7.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, well, I guess I feel like, and maybe this is more statement than question, and I understand we're far apart right now in numbers and trying to come to this resolution. But one thing that we all have to be prepared for is this goes to a referendum to the citizens, and there's a chance none of us get any money. And so we have to be.
What's your plan to come up with it if it doesn't pass?
Come up with what?
Which part?
What if the SPLOST does not pass, what is your dollars?
We obviously won't do some of these projects.
Yeah.
We'll cut it.
We'll keep the base services that we provide right now to try to fight to keep our millage rate going down, not up. I mean, that's,
But it will raise the millage rate. If the citizens do not pass SPLOST, the way the county collects money, because the city has the revenue funds, the gas, the city water, and the sewer. The county does not have revenue. They have property tax collection. If you pass the
If you pass it.
SPLOST, I mean, that's why it's the fairest tax, because all the folks that rent here, all the folks that that come in and shop in our community and do business here at Walmart from other counties, they're the ones paying for all of this infrastructure upgrades and proposals across the county. It's the sales tax. So we still have to purchase sheriff's vehicles. We still have to do upgrades to the jail. You take a tier 1 project off, and we still have to maintain our roads and bridges, prepare for disaster from storms as we've seen come through just last year. And we dodged a big bullet, and our neighbors in North Carolina unfortunately didn't have that opportunity to do so. But if we don't have SPLOST and we don't have money for capital projects and emergencies, then yeah, we'll have to raise the millage rate. And you all will too.
Can you not?
We absolutely would, but we can't guarantee that would happen. We absolutely pursue grants every day, and I agree, y'all can't either.
For 7-something million. A little over 7 million. Becky,
Are you referring to the loans that we've got?
payback that we've done.
We'll have $20 million in loan debt when we finish the wastewater plant upgrades.
See, we have $20 million. Talk about enterprise. So these are services that have to have water.
Are the sewers,
Raise the rates in order. Raise rates enough to offset that debt to the city of either the county or the city. That's completely out of, have to be able to afford.
That's with grants. We had 9 million in grants.
You lost those grants too?
No, we still owe 20 after we got the
After you got the
$9 million
grant.
grants.
I got you.
That's
Okay.
how much, we talk about enterprise funds, that's where the money goes.
Enterprise funds, it does.
We're
So
both
is
trying to
it-
do this, we're both trying to do the
SPLOST
same
is
thing with
equally as
SPLOST, it's just.
important to the city as it is.
and I understand, but you have options and levers to pull outside of property tax and millage, whereas we do not have as many options.
Yeah, but you're going to go up on utility rates.
But it's specific to the citizen that uses that
Taxpayer,
service.
when-
It's specific to
If-
the service. Name me one citizen that doesn't use water.
Well water customers.
Very,
But they exist, is all that's just all I'm saying, is that they do exist, and it is specific to those customers.
What number are y'all looking for?
Well, if I could, I've been trying to think and understand.
I'm sorry. At $11 million.
I'm sorry, if y'all can turn your mics on, because there are some people watching live stream.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
They're not able to hear you, and they're missing out on.
Okay,
some
sorry.
Earlier when we were talking about the splits, and I was trying to understand where you're coming up with 5 million, and you said you have to go to population. I understand if you would do population if you don't have an agreement, but could we not come up with agreement to be able to keep it 6 years and then agree to split by population? So we would get,
After what portion? So you're talking
After
about,
you
you're
do
talking
your
about
tier.
combining the two models, is what you're
yeah,
talking about.
after you pay for the $16 million in service debt, there would be 20 million left over. So instead of us getting 20%, we split by population base and do 34. I mean, you could
Give it- so
agree to that, you
you're talking about-
necessarily
You're
don't
talking
have.
about giving us 16 million off the top out of the 36
Yeah,
over a
because we really
6-year.
don't have, the city don't have a choice in that, you control that completely.
Correct, I agree. So but you're talking about taking 16 million off the top and then taking the remaining 20 and divide it up by the 60, what is it, 34 or whatever it was.
The population base, because earlier you were doing 20%,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. No, we just had to throw out a number to start somewhere.
Right. Because really, the way I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you call the SPLOST a referendum, and if you have the level 1 project, you're totally in control.
Sure.
So I would much rather do the 34, of course, we'll talk, but the 20%, it just doesn't make any sense at all based on population and what we've done historically.
But that's if we don't go into a depression.
That's if they can guarantee $30 and they can't.
They can't
They
get
cannot
into it.
guarantee.
You still end up with less money on the back end.
How's that?
6.8 million if you split the 20 million by
They still
population.
get
But you were
6.8
offering us
million.
5 million, right?
No, we were offering you 7.3.
7.5.
It's 7.3 and some change. That's what I'm saying, we gotta start somewhere.
Commissioners, so it looks like, based on Mayor Carter's,
Get $5 million.
it looks like they'd be getting 6.8, City of Toccoa would be getting,
Only for
and Stevens County would be getting
population
28.8.
And
With a
Avalon and
6-year
Martin
IGA.
would still be taken care of at their agreed-upon number.
Yeah, but
The
the
chart.
64-34 still leaves
Explains it
2%
pretty
as well.
We still bid 6.
You had handouts, you should have had enough for everybody, Chris.
I'm sorry, I didn't print.
Yeah, but if this is a 6-year, because you're, we could still.
It wouldn't make sense, it wouldn't make sense.
So what is the
We
projected,
don't, Tug, we don't want to give y'all
What
less
is-
money than we gave you last time, that's the whole.
Right there, it says $4.8 million.
so the projected on revenue, the entire SPLOST is what?
$36 million. On a 6-year IGA, if you do a 6-year agreement like we've traditionally done, it's 36
And
million.
what is $11 million of the percentage of that? What is it? That's what we need.
That would be the 68.
That
That's
would be what you
1.25%.
currently, that'd be what you asked for last time, basically.
For us, and 31.75 for you.
Which is,
Yeah, that's keeping it same.
That's keeping it the same.
The only difference is the level 1 project comes out first.
So if something tears up at the water plant, we just can't give water till they get their building paid for.
Well, this,
Is that
we
right?
could take the building off of it. We still have other level 1 project. And this building may come off of it. I mean, because we're still having, we're planning on having town hall meetings to get feedback from the public as well, to see.
But if your building comes off that, I think, that has to be done before, this election is when?
So it'll be in the fall, but,
You have to show what your projects are
We have to show
before
by
the
July.
election.
but you have to show what you're going to use it for. You
Right,
don't
by
have to
July.
commit to,
We could just say government.
just say government buildings. It wouldn't have to say this particular building.
Right,
You just are committed to doing facility upgrades.
right.
But you don't have to commit to the same amount of money for it. You can commit to government building upgrades, but you don't have to commit to the same amount of money for it.
Yes, you do.
Not if they take
Kinda.
this off the project. If they take their $30 million building out of it, and they see that the public is not wanting it, then, and they take that out of the equation, then you don't have to commit to that much money to government building upgrades.
But then what would you do?
Then that would change your Tier 1 project.
We still have them though. That's
You,
the
I'm not
only
saying
one.
you wouldn't have one. I'm not saying that the jail wouldn't be involved, and I'm not saying that the remodel of that. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that if your building that you're wanting to build and the parking deck is, if the public comes out and they say they don't want it and you change it, then that changes the amount of your Tier 1 project.
Potentially.
Potentially, but in
Right.
theory, we could
Potentially.
we
We're
could
talking
backfill with
potentially.
other projects.
Right.
Yeah, because
So-
if our supplemental project's something that we've already taken off the table for this year, we put that back on the table, it could actually increase that cost. Potentially.
And those are
That's an
all
awful nice
level
figure
one
for somebody to
projects?
want a plaque on the wall with their name on it.
All in the
Well,
four
what-
buckets.
On the wall with their name on it.
What are those other projects?
I didn't even know we were getting.
What plaque?
What are your other projects if this don't go?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
said a plaque of one
So you
of
got-
the
One thing that we're gonna have to
What
address is
plaque?
fire departments in the near future.
But that was already in your
And,
plan.
That's level
and that's
two.
gonna require a lot of infrastructure. That's gonna be buildings that have kitchens and bunk rooms and things.
Showers.
And more, emergency vehicles.
We've got a
And so
fire
if-
department right now that they can't even go to the bathroom now.
Yeah, they gotta go to the store. I mean, there's.
But those are level two projects.
Current.
That's not a level one
And
by
those-
law you have to.
Right,
Right.
and I don't
What's
disagree
your
with
other
that.
tier one projects?
I'm just
besides
saying there's
the
a
jail?
lot of other stuff that we have not
Wouldn't be
put
written-
on this
The
list.
language won't be written in a way where it ties you to a building, if that makes sense. It would tie you to like government structures. So I can give you the list, of-
Capital improvements.
yes, that goes in here, that are level two that would slide
If
into
you
that
call it a
slot,
capital
if it
But
makes
Chris,
sense.
the law dictates exactly what a level one project has to be.
That's
So
correct.
how
Correct.
can you just say government building?
You can't
and
say
it could be
capital
any kind of
improvement
building?
because they don't make it a tier one
You can
project.
say government building,
You can say
we've done
government
research on
buildings.
that.
They go-
Mr. Rank, is that correct?
So as long as the government owns the building?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, it's generally a courthouse. I think that would fall into an administrative type building. If you want to call it a government building, I think it's just terminology.
Right,
Yeah, I do think a government building.
would be an
But
umbrella.
It is a limited number of, Mayor Carter was correct, limited number of level one projects. I
Right,
with that.
but government building would be one of them, and that's somewhat of an umbrella term.
Yeah, the actual statute says an administrative building for elected officials or constitutional.
But I think in the
Then what is a
spirit,
courthouse called?
Courthouse, I'm assuming, is going to be more for, unfortunately,
Capital improvement.
myself and the judges and, to have our hearings in our courtrooms and stuff like that. Whether it's in the same building,
That'd be
could be
capital
combined into being the same project.
That's yeah.
but I
That's
think
a
in the
capital
spirit of the
improvement.
matter, you want to be transparent and clear and upfront. And if you're,
Yeah, it's one.
so I think in our talks, I think we should be clear, this is a tier level one project, because there are certain laws and ramifications that are in there.
Don't scream.
And if you just put a blanket term over it and it's an umbrella sort of catch-all, I think it get confusing fast because it's all about numbers at that point and splits.
To your point, that's one of the reasons we want to have several town hall meetings very soon.
Chairman,
So,
Yes,
the level one project only factors in when you go by population distribution. So you only have to determine how you fund it when you're going by population distribution. You don't have to discuss level one projects when you're going through an IGA process.
thank you for that clarification.
And I think that's where we're crossed up a little bit. There's two different proposed methods. To be clear, we do not want to talk about population distribution. Not beneficial to anyone. They're a 6-year IGA and out over the entire 6 years from day one. Like I said, if you go population distribution, come to you till like year 4, because you take the tier 1 project and go spend those dollars first.
Christian, would it also delay the other two cities?
Yes.
Yes, they wouldn't get their funds for year 4,
Back end,
and they
right.
get less than what they're
Under the
getting now.
6-year IGA, we'd give them the money right up front. We'd give them the $500,000 right off the top.
so can you supply us with all of your level one projects and a dollar amount that you've got assigned to each one of those?
So we can go through every project that we've discussed. We can go back and forth about level 1 if you want to for population distribution. But what we're trying to get to is a 6-year IGA where that terminology would not matter, right? We'd just be talking about projects. So I can go through those projects. I'm
Well,
not
it
really.
matters because if it's going to be $16 million in debt service, or if it's going to be $12 million.
I
or
agree, but
10.
I'm talking about the labeling of the projects won't matter if we're in a 6-year IGA, like Christian was saying, right? So, I mean, I'll give you the projects right now. We've already published that list in another meeting that we had. But pad-ready sites for economic development would be a portion of that. Radio system upgrade for the county, with EMS.
How much is
fire.
economic development, Chris?
So these are estimates, right? We haven't, just like y'all's numbers, they're not full figured. So 1.5 million for pad-ready sites. roughly 3 million for radio system. It says 800,000. Fire department needs 1.5 million. Roads and bridges, which includes the purchase of equipment if needed, because we pave ourselves, sheriff's vehicles is 300,000. That's the list that we discussed in our first public meeting talking about SPLOST projects.
And one of those projects that has been a great benefit to the city is the Economic Development Authority. They actually, in their capital request, asked for $3 million. And with all these other projects, you know, of course, we haven't finalized everything, but we come up with 1.5, and I mean, I hope that the city would really have discussion about doing the other 1.5, because when you put a building on that site, they're going to do natural gas and they're going to do water, and that, you know, would help you all as far as recovering your money from industry being there. So that's a discussion y'all have to have in your work sessions, but we're only able, with all these projects that we're looking at, we're only able to look at giving the Development Authority 1.5 million of their 3 million ask. I mean,
But
there's just too much going on.
For either one of us to finalize our list, we have to agree to percentage, because you have to have a rough estimate of what you're going to fit into. So it's all speculation right now on both sides of the house until we agree to a percentage. And that's just the truth. You can't make an estimate if you don't have a rough idea of what's coming in.
Brian, for some reason, I want to think that I read that if you have level 1 projects, if there's not an agreement, that the county could still go 6 years. Am I just dreaming?
You're right. It has to provide more than 24 months of payments to get 6 years by itself as the county. If it's less than 24 months, which we estimated it would be less than 24, it's 5 years.
Can you repeat that again, Christian?
Yes, sir. So if your level 1 projects that you're funding constitute more than 24 consecutive months of SPLOST revenues received, then the county can collect at population distribution for 6 years. If it's less than 24 consecutive months, then you can only do 5 years. We would be less than 24 months.
We don't want to cut you a year at all. What we want to do, we want to do IGA with you guys. They're not interested in population distribution. It does not.
Christian, on the debt service, can you give me a breakdown by building?
There would only be one building funded through debt servicing.
That
would be the annex.
And how much is that?
About $12 to $14 million, depending on the rate, the building that we were looking at funding. We won't be able to know exactly what we're looking at for that until we determine, as Chris said, what the actual cost of that building would be. Once we get the actual cost, that would determine how much we needed to borrow.
When do you anticipate receiving that?
We would probably issue a revenue bond after SPLOST was approved.
I'm sorry, when do you expect to have your estimate for your building? Whether it's going to be 12 million or 14 million?
They already put it in the paper, it's 20.
So there's a class 5 estimate that was done. That's just a high-level estimate of the structure. We have not gone into the effort, as Chuck mentioned earlier, to start peeling the building back to what we finally want it to look like. The structure of the building will do. We will not do that until we have the study completed for the government building down here. Because if
So when is the study?
So the study,
Study's already
it's already, yeah, it's already started. It's in 2 phases. So they're going to go look at the feasibility of remodeling that building to meet the needs of the court system, not right now, but in the future as well. Okay? If those come back favorable, we'll authorize phase 2 of that study, which gets more into the details that you've seen on that building over there. A similar kind of rendering, a model, what that timeline would look like. Then we have to make a decision on which way we would proceed. We may not have the funds to do both. We know that going in, but we're doing our due diligence right now before we commit to either building. That's what we're doing right now. So I can't answer all those questions that you have because we don't have the information yet.
So when do you anticipate having that, Chris?
Probably about 60 days out. They said 75. I think that was about 2 weeks ago.
We're
We
still
have-
waiting on them to come and even do the measuring.
So-
They-
Well,
they
that-
haven't even got-
So
they
you
haven't
don't
even
have a
finished the ground yet.
deadline or some kind of similar deadline as to when you may get any kind of information on this?
That's what I just,
We
it's a
just-
75-day
Yeah.
when they hit the ground. And I was mistaken. I thought they had come last week,
They did not show up last
but
week.
it's 75 days from now.
So on the annex building, we've gone as far as we're willing to go right now. We've completed the study, we have a Class 5 estimate, we have rendering, shows you roughly what the building would look like on the property. We have a rough estimate of what those costs would be. We want the same information for this building before we make a decision.
And Vice Chairman, just for that, just to clarify, that cost estimate is what we will be able to utilize for SPLOST. So
But
we've
it's
got
an
the information we need to get it budgeted in SPLOST.
What is that estimate total?
$30 million.
30 million?
That's all in.
But it's public information, we put it in the paper.
So what about timing? If it's 75 days, a little less now since you've already started it, how will that work on the timing as far as when we need to make a decision? Lost agreement.
The way we will budget those SPLOST dollars through an IGA, we will be able to utilize them for both the multi-use governmental facility, including either the annex or the existing government building. So those funds will be available in SPLOST.
Christian, can I ask you a question? If the IGA agreement is at the 80/20 at 7.5 million, James has done it at CPI at 1%, correct?
Sir?
Which is lower than what it's
Bingo.
most likely going to be. So can we give a real kind of the possible view of CPI being higher and what, because I think they're going to hit 9, 10 million, maybe even more if CPI is being projected a little less conservatively. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, right now where we're budgeting it at a 1% increase just to be conservative. You know, you never know what's going to happen in the market. Right now is a good example of that. But yeah, I mean, potentially, you know, we could budget more, or, you know, budgeting at this 1% increase right now, anything above that initial estimate, the counties and the city will still be able to receive.
Have you run the numbers on a 2% increase?
Yeah, we can show you that.
I'm sure the city would like to hear that as well.
Yep. All right. On a 2% increase, we'd be looking at about 38 million.
So what would that 80/20 split look like?
James can do some quick math.
Thank you.
But these are just
That's about
ifs.
7.6 for the city.
We could go into a huge, I mean, like I keep saying, the political climate is so unstable right now, we could be headed for anything. I mean, we could get a whole lot less from this one. Or we
Yeah,
could get,
Walmart could shut down tomorrow, and
we could get a whole lot
that's where a lot of
more.
our SPLOST dollars come from.
I
is
mean,
that
we don't know
retail giant.
what may happen, so I don't want to go into any negotiation looking that we might get this amount if we get 2% more or whatever. We need to look at it realistically, of what we probably will get, not what we could get.
But
in
these
the
are all
best-
forecast. These are all forecast.
Right.
Very conservative forecast.
They're
That's why-
conservative, but there's no guarantee in any of these numbers.
That's why I'm
That's
asking.
true, that's why I
Or
don't
for
wanna-
referendum passes. I mean,
Guarantee it.
we are negotiating in a forecasting environment. So looking at 1% versus 2% is still I think worth looking at the number to know, because we have to, it may not grow at all. It may be at a 0% rate, which then, in theory, invalidates these numbers as well. Would the
Christian, the 12 to 14 million debt service, I'm still trying to get it clear in my head. If you decide not to move forward with this building and just do the improvements, you're still saying that you can spend it anywhere in the tier 1. So help me understand, how it could either be the 12 million or the 14.
The-
How would that make it fluctuate?
The tier one is only determined through population distribution. We're trying to negotiate an IGA. So we would be
Yeah, I
looking at
understand
how we
that.
would fund
So
it.
if we don't come up with an agreement, it's definitely based on population.
Yes, sir.
So what you have to do is you take off that level one project, and then the net is distributed by population.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be the 12 or the 14.
Gotcha. I mean, the board would budget based on what they feel they're receiving in SPLOST proceeds, but yeah, I mean, probably, 12 to 14 would be a rough estimate of what we're looking at, depending on if we wanted to go a $25 million building, or a 20 million, or 30 million, or 18 years, or 12 years, or cash. I mean, there's a bunch of different options that we'd have to look at when we were ready to actually get that IGA moving forward, because we'd have to put all those numbers in there, but, I mean, these
That
are,
debt servicing number you're describing is for the entire project, correct?
yes, that's for the entire project.
That debt servicing number would be spread over 2 SPLOST, correct?
Just a minute, please.
That debt servicing number will be spread over 2 SPLOST.
Yes, sir. Well, that 12 million would be under one SPLOST. But to fund the future debt servicing, yes, sir, that would be through two SPLOST.
So the public would have to be made to realize that this is going to take this SPLOST, and then you're going to have to pass the next one to make it work.
And we've been very upfront with that, about the building.
So Christian, when you said that the 12 million will only take one SPLOST, what is that building? What is it doing?
So,
If you can do all that in one SPLOST.
so the county would issue a revenue bond, or the Public Facilities Authority would issue a revenue bond, and we would use debt servicing to pay off that revenue bond. So the revenue bond would be for the cost of the building itself.
So I understand, but is that the $30 million?
Yes, sir.
To build this, and you won't do anything to the other government building? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. So there would be a revenue bond that would be issued, and then we would fund a portion of the debt servicing for that revenue bond in this SPLOST. And then any of the other projects we're looking at, they would not be funded through a revenue bond. They would be funded through SPLOST proceeds.
So this is all or none. If you don't do one, you're not going to do the other. Is that right?
We are not going to build a building that doesn't address the needs of the courts.
The
We are
court system
we
is
are
the reason
going to
we're-
address the needs of the courts. It may be in 2 buildings, it may be in a remodel. We don't have that final answer, but we are not ignoring the feedback on the courts. We are going to do something to address.
Right.
We may find out through these studies and estimates that all we can afford to do is remodel this building, and to Michelle's point, have to figure out somewhere else to put the staff that's going to get displaced. We know that may be possible, but we don't have a final answer. I don't want to sit here and tell you this is going to happen when I don't know yet.
So Chris, if that happens, if you decide not to build here and you just improve this building, will you still spend $30 million?
I don't
They don't have the study.
expect that yet. I don't expect the number to be that big.
See, that's why it's important in this conversation, because that's the level one project debt service number.
I think maybe I'm misunderstanding or we're talking past each other. If we enter a 6-year IGA, that level one number doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
It becomes
understand that,
irrelevant.
but the other part is if you don't enter into the agreement, then it's all based on population.
And to your point, Mayor, I understand that perspective. Likewise for us, that was the reason I was asking about the water. Because my understanding is you don't have a quote or a study completed yet on your water system for us to know what this 5 million will accomplish. Versus, will this patch it for 1 year, 10 years? When do we, redress the water system? And then my follow-up question would be, is that 80/20, would that be more palatable if the water department was not an issue?
Well, Commissioner Oglesby, in no way, when I mentioned the water plant need, I don't want to confuse the conversation. In no way are we suggesting that we're going to be able to build the plant with this SPLOST. That was just one example of many that we use SPLOST dollars for when it comes to the water department. So I don't want to confuse the issue on that. There's a lot of things that we do in the water department that SPLOST dollars would go toward, not just that building itself. That's just one example of it.
The
But-
lakes have to be dredged. Right now, they need dredging it's going to be $2 million.
It's just the same way that y'all were requesting us having a quote to know exactly what we were gonna have this building. Likewise, for the request on the water needs, I mean, I think if we're.
Yes, sir.
We would need to understand that as well.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. The only reason it matters here is because you have a level 1 project. And that level 1 project, you have to know a dollar amount, because if we do not enter into an agreement, then the law dictates that it's split by population.
Yes, sir.
So you got to have that number up front to carve off first, and whether that's going to be 10 million, 8 million, or 16 million, whatever it's going to be, and then we will get 34% of whatever's left over.
So to the best of our knowledge, sitting at the table right now, that number is $16 million.
But see, I guess that's why I wrote
If you
down
chose not to enter
16.
an IGA.
But I wrote down 16, but then we said it was 12 to 14. That's why I'm
That's debt,
confused.
that's debt servicing. So you're talking about the total number of Tier 1 projects. You got the jail at $2 million, you got the annex at $14 million. That's your $16 million.
Is that debt service or construction cost?
So it's combined number, the $14 million that you're suggesting in this SPLOST, right?
Yes, so it's combined. The debt servicing would be for the annex, and then the others would just be construction costs, upgrades, necessary repairs to those structures.
Okay. So say that one more time, Christian. I'm sorry.
So, yes, so let's say we're looking at $16 million. You could say 12 to 14 of that would be for the debt servicing. The remainder of that, and that's specifically for the annex. The remainder of that would be for the jail or the government building, and that would be for repair, upgrades,
Actual
expansions.
construction total
Yes, sir.
project cost?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I got off, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we're just talking past each other, same thing.
But that's why it matters, is having a handle on
Sure.
what you're going to call level 1 projects.
Sure.
Because, we'll have to decide whether we enter an agreement or we don't. Because it may be to our benefit not to enter an agreement, and then the city gets 34% of whatever's left over from your Tier 1 project.
The most we're looking at for that is $4 million.
Because you can only go 5 years, is that why
Yeah,
it's less?
based on a 5-year. So you would automatically start at $3 million less than with an IGA.
And nothing for the first 3 years or 2 years.
Year 4, they start.
There would be a delay, which, again, that's what we want to come to the agreement because we feel like it is better for them.
I'm sorry, I will be cognizant of your time. I think we need to probably adjourn because you have a meeting at 5 o'clock. I'm sorry, I was watching the clock. So do I have a meeting to adjourn? Set another meeting, we'll have to coordinate that so everybody can be present.
Madam Chair, may I ask, is there any way that we could get a breakdown printed out of
I think so. I think
projects?
Last
Or
time nobody asked, they just delivered it by the deputy and said, is that
Can we
this
have
time?
a couple of dates? Be nice.
I mean, just to get it
Just,
mandated.
instead of, this
Get
is when
set
it's in
to
the
it.
paper and this is when you need to.
I don't control that, so,
That was not very pleasant.
Madam Chair, is there any way, sorry,
It's okay.
is there any way, I think it could help for our next meeting, is if we had the projects that you're proposing
Sure.
list out by
We'll
a
get
dollar
that.
amount, and I've shared some of these, and we'll be happy to do the same, just so you have our number.
we will get
Thank you, I
And
appreciate
we
it.
will try to send 2 dates over at least that were available.
And we'll try to have I know Alex has told us it's over $1 million, the water plant study.
That would be really helpful, I think, for us.
Yeah,
Thank you all for
absolutely.
meeting with us again.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
would be great.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.